So today we are beginning our next unit, which is on solving equations. We're going to start out today with one-step equations, just very basic equations. So I know most of you, this is going to come very easy to, but things that I'm going to point out, you need to be working the problems vertically, up and down, okay? Very important that you show your work, because as we progress through this, we're going to be adding in more and more steps. Very important that you work down. Okay, we're not working across left to right. We work down with our problems. You need to show all of your work. So when we look at this very first problem, we see b plus 18 equals 20. And I'm sure all of you very easily know what the value of b is. But more importantly is how we show that algebraically. So basically what we're doing is we want to isolate the variable, get the variable all by itself. So we're using inverse operations. And those inverse properties are properties that we talked about in our last unit. Okay? Addition and subtraction, inverse properties makes the answer equal to 0. For multiplication, we want it equal to the number 1. Okay? So I need to get rid of this 18. So I'm using inverse operations. So to make my 18 a 0, I'm going to do what? Subtract 18. And whatever I do on one side of the equal sign, I have to do on the other side of the equal sign to keep it balanced, keep it the same on both sides. Something that some people like to do to help them if they're more visual, okay, it's not required, but some people like to draw a line down from that equal sign to help them visually see I need to be working on both sides of the equal sign. So my b drops straight down. Again, I'm not writing over to the right. I'm bringing it straight down. 18 minus 18 is 0. That's gone. That's our inverse. And it is equal to 20 minus 18 is 2. Okay. So again, when you are doing your homework assignment, you're going to write it vertically, just like you see me doing here. They give you a place to check your work. At this point in time, I'm not going to have you write out the check, but that's the good thing about algebra, is that you can check your work. You should know when you are done with an assignment, when you turn in a quiz or a test, that your answers are correct if you have checked them. Okay, these basic one-step equations, okay, you can do that mental check. If I put 2 in place of b, 2 plus 18 does equal 20. So moving on to number 2, this time I have x minus 17 equals 121. So what do I do to make this negative 17 a 0? I need to add 17 to both sides of the equation. So I drop down my x. Negative 17 plus 17, those are inverses. It's gone. 121 plus 17 gives me my solution of 138. Again, very easy for me to check my work. 138 minus 17 does equal 121. Number 3, we have a over 5 equals 6. What am I going to do to get that a all by itself? Okay, so we talked about that fraction bar means division. So instead of dividing by 5, I'm going to multiply by 5. which as a fraction is 5 over 1. On the right side, I can just leave it that whole number. So on this left side, I can simplify, get rid of those 5s, because again, those are inverse operations, so I'm just left with the variable a equals 6 times 5 is 30. Again, if I quick do a mental check, 30 divided by 5 does equal 6. Number 4, we have 2.5x equals 625. What am I going to do to get that x by itself? I'm going to divide both sides by 2.5. So on the left side, 2.5 divided by 2.5 is 1. And then we just have that variable x equals 625 divided by 2.5. Anybody know how we can do that without long division?
625 divided by 25 and move your decimal back over.
Okay, so we could divide by 25, move the decimal, then we have to move it back over. Okay. Other than dividing by 25, anybody else see something that we could use instead of having divide 25 into 625? How many times does 25 go into 625? 25 times, because 25 squared is 625. Okay? So if there were a 25, I know it goes in 25 times. Okay? But it's not 25, it's 2.5. So if this number is smaller than 25, I have to make the other number bigger than 25. So what would it be? 250. Okay. We could use some estimation. 2.5 is between 2 and 3. If it was just 2, 2 would go in more than 300 times. 3 would go in over 200 times. So our answer has to be somewhere between 200 and 300. Okay, so it's at 250. If you didn't know that, then you'd have to do your long division and do your 625 divided by 2.5. There is one more example that is not on here that I want you to write somewhere on this page, because you're going to see some problems like it in your homework assignment. So if I had 2/3 x equals 7. Okay. So it looks a little bit different than the other examples we've seen. What am I going to do to get that x by itself?
Make 2/3 times 3 over 2.
Okay, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, it's got some similarities to number 4 because I'm multiplying that 2/3 and that x. Okay, so opposite of multiplying is dividing. But if I divide by a fraction, dividing by a fraction means I multiply by the reciprocal. So that goes away on the left side because those are inverses. 7 as a fraction is 7 over 1. Multiply straight across.
21 over 2.
And I get 21 over 2. And I am going to leave it that way. Okay, I'm not going to change it to a mixed number. I'm going to leave it as 21 over 2.